Before a woman's life truly turns, what she feels is not rising certainty, but widening sensitivity. She speaks less and listens more. Questions multiply while answers recede. From the outside, some mistake this for a slump, a loss of spark, even a breakdown. In truth, it is a spiritual calibration, like tuning an instrument before performance. Real change rarely arrives as fireworks. It drifts in like a wind shift. The nervous system eases out of fight or flight. Sleep demands respect. Small talk becomes heavy. And a growing refusal to tolerate what misaligns takes root. On the science side, the brain's default mode network lights up in rest and inward focus, creating room to process memory, integrate emotion, and glimpse new possibilities. On the spiritual side, it is an invitation home. Slow down. Listen. In daily life, it shows up as decisive micro-choices, silencing notifications, scheduling yourself before you schedule others, saying no without the apology attached. As external noise dims, the inner voice rises. It doesn't hoist flags, it whispers steadily. This is no longer me. From here, transformation doesn't begin with a grand edict. It begins with 100 tiny redesigns. One deeper breath before replying. One pause before agreeing. One honest journal page. She realizes uncertainty is not proof she's off course. Unlistened to truth is. When sensitivity is treated like a compass rather than a nuisance, self-criticism gives way to collaboration with oneself. That collaboration becomes the ground for the next 8 movements. Stillness, releasing old attachments, energy sensitivity, disentangling from approval, somatic wisdom, surrendering control, all activated by a simple decision to take her own side. It is humble and fierce at once. She stops trying to outrun discomfort and starts befriending it. She chooses presence over performance, discernment over drama, and inner consent over outward compliance. This is how a life quietly re-architects itself from the load-bearing beams inward, long before anyone else notices the house has changed address. Shift 1. Inner stillness. Quiet to grow strong, not to grow small. Stillness here is not laziness or escape. It is the power of presence. After years lived outward, nurturing children, tending partners, chasing KPIs, she realizes she hasn't met herself in a long time. The desire for solitude appears. A hot cup of tea, a notebook, a few unhurried breaths at dawn or near sleep. Neuroscience affirms it. In rest and introspection, the brain reorganizes memory, updates the inner map of who I am, and integrates scattered emotional fragments. Time alone doesn't cut life off, it plugs life deeper in. Practically, boundaries rise as noise recedes. She stops yesing out of guilt, stops stretching hollow calls, stops plugging every silence with her presence. Loved ones may be confused. Why are you less available? But stillness doesn't steal fire, it governs it. She chooses when to speak, what to say, and with whom. In relationships, she prefers spaces where 2 people can sit quietly without performance. At work, she protects deep work blocks instead of a calendar swollen with meetings. Physiologically, frequent parasympathetic activation unwinds tension. Nameless aches fade because they were unread messages from the body. Stillness is also where the unusual gets voice. Sometimes an idea to pivot careers, sometimes the truth that a relationship is complete. Quiet lets truth enter without knocking. And when truth arrives, she is steady enough to respond rather than react. This is stillness as infrastructure. Subtle, but structural. It doesn't shout, yet it redesigns a life from beneath. It strengthens her attunement. What drains, what nourishes, what deserves a sacred no. She no longer confuses constant output with impact or access with intimacy. In the hush, she rediscovers her own center of gravity. From that gravity, words become fewer and cleaner, love less frantic and more faithful, work less performative and more precise. Stillness, far from shrinking her, is what lets her stand taller, with a quiet spine. Shift 2. Releasing old attachments. Familiar, not healthy. Turning inward reveals several old homes have grown tight. A friendship sustained by habit, a job once dreamlike, a role as the one who can take it. The sensation of not belonging anymore swells. Releasing attachment is not erasing the past. It is thanking it and making room. Limbic circuitry stamps familiarity through repeated emotion, even if unhealthy. Leaving therefore feels wrong-ish. But familiar is not a moral standard, it is a habit standard. She begins to discern attachment from love. Attachment fears loss. Love wants growth for both. Compassionate letting go becomes a practice, honoring what fed her, naming the fear of emptiness, deliberately creating a sacred gap for the new. The gap isn't comfortable, echoing nights, returning doubts, but space is the condition for rebirth, like a snake that must shed a skin. In practice, she narrows social rings to relationships with reciprocity, releases commitments that no longer fit, stops laughing along with corrosive humor. No smashing, no scorn, just no more pretending. And without pretending, she feels lighter. Shoulders drop, breath deepens, gaze steadies. That is the energy of someone no longer indebted to herself. From now on, big choices are not fueled by fear of being alone or nostalgia for yesterday, but by one criterion. Does this nourish life in me? That question is a scalpel that separates living tissue from scar. It's also a compass for the unknown. Some bonds will refit and grow. Others will fall away with grace. She learns to stay with the hollow until it becomes holy. She lets grief do its cleansing work without letting guilt do its sabotaging work. What remains after attachment loosens is not absence. It is truth, available, breathable, and surprisingly kind. Shift 3. Energy sensitivity and co-regulation. Hold your field. Don't absorb the room. Her sensitivity sharpens. Before words, she reads the field. Tense space, tight shoulders. Tender space, open chest. This isn't oversensitivity, it's neural co-regulation and mirror neuron fluency. With it comes responsibility. Rather than being pulled by the room, she learns to hold her field. The tools are small and embodied. Check breath before speaking, hand to heart when pulse races. Request a 2-minute pause mid-meeting. In intimacy, she trades argument for sensation. When plans are canceled without notice, my chest tightens, breath shortens. Somatic language de-escalates better than accusation.
She also stops pouring from an empty cup. If overloaded, she asks to reschedule listening so she can offer presence, not performance. Noisy, hollow conversations fade on their own. They don't match her field. Sensitivity doesn't make her fragile, it makes her selective. Stay where life expands, step away where the body shrinks. She owns her impact too, not raining on innocent heads, not wielding silence as a weapon, not hiding cruelty behind just being honest. The goal is not to become a fixer of everyone, it is to be an adult in interaction, to know when to steady, when to step back, to guard the border between empathy and absorption, to remember kindness needs a